Hot music, hot stars. Only on 92.5 KISS FM. Today's hot new country.
This morning, the United States of America carried out the severest sentence for the gravest of crimes.
The man who killed those people died on schedule by lethal injection, and no member of his family was in attendance.
At the same time, I'm in this.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention? Please leave the building by the nearest exit. Do not use the elevators.
Obviously a major malfunction.
I think, like everyone else, I thought it was a tragic event. And that's all I really want to say.
And the children?
I thought it was terrible that there were children in the building.
And here's Raymond's. See, we have a nice view of the courthouse. I'm videotaping my work for my mom.
Please, no, you gotta have your pictures.
This is Colleen. She's a loan officer, Claudette.
Hi.
On April 19, 1995, American anti-government extremist Timothy McVeigh, assisted by Terry Nichols, detonated a makeshift bomb stored in a rental truck parked in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in an act of domestic terrorism.
There are 4 elements that I have to receive information regarding him.
Everybody, let's get out of here. Now, watch the electricity line. Watch the light. Watch the light.
When I was thrown on the floor, I could look up through the whole building and see clear on the north side. I could see blue sky. So I knew it was horrible.
They're out of their building, and we can see glass blown out of other downtown office buildings about 5 blocks away.
168.
This is something that happens somewhere else. This is something that happens in places like Beirut, places far, far away, places with strange sounding names. It's not something that's supposed to happen in places like Oklahoma City. It's not something that's supposed to happen at home, but it has.
The bombing remains the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history.
And we've had some callers call in and point out that this is the 2nd anniversary of the fire and the Holocaust down at Waco at Mount Carmel, where David Koresh and his followers were held up.
Kelly, we're getting some really bad news just in from Heidi Browning on the scene. Children at this hour are being pulled out of the Alfred Murrah building.
Timothy McVeigh, a former soldier trained in demolition, is charged with committing the most deadly criminal act in the history of the United States. McVeigh harbors extreme anger at the federal government.
There are some issues that I just don't feel that it's the right time to discuss in depth.
We spoke with one of the survivors who got out earlier in the day about his escape. This is what he had to say.
At first I thought it might have been an earthquake, and then the building wasn't rocking, so I figured, well, it's not an earthquake. But when I did get up, I looked to the north, and there was no wall there anymore. And there was no floor out in front of us either. I was about 8 feet from the part of it that dropped. I'm madder than hell. We need to tighten up our immigration rules. It's bad.
Oklahoma City is probably much like the town you live in. We're not really famous for anything. We're just people like you and your neighbors. But all that changed at 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995. Now we're famous. We're famous for the deadliest terror attack in United States history.
Terry Lynn Nichols was born April 1st, 1955, in Lapeer, Michigan. He was raised on a farm, the third of 4 children of Joyce and Robert Nichols. Growing up, he helped his parents on the farm, learning to operate and maintain the equipment. Timothy James McVeigh was born on April 23rd, 1968, in Lockport, New York, the only son and the second of 3 children of his Irish-American parents, Noreen Mildred Hill and William McVeigh. Nichols attended Lapeer High School, where he took elective classes in crafts and business law. Throughout school, friends characterized him as shy. While in high school, he played junior varsity football, wrestled, and was a member of the ski club. His brother James, who self-published a 400-page book about the bombing, has stated that Terry was book smart and good at artwork. He graduated from high school in 1973 with a 3.6 grade point average, with the ambitions of becoming a physician. Terry Nichols moved to Colorado and obtained a license to sell real estate in 1976. Soon after he closed on his first big sale, his mother told him she needed his help on the farm, so he returned to Michigan. The adolescent Timothy McVeigh claimed to have been a target of bullying at school, and he took refuge in a fantasy world where he imagined retaliating against the bullies. Most who knew McVeigh remembered him as being very shy and withdrawn, while a few described him as an outgoing and playful child. He is said to have had only one girlfriend in his youth. He later told journalists that he did not have any idea how to impress girls.
In your high school yearbook, under future plans, you wrote, "Take it as it comes, buy a Lamborghini, California girls."
Right.
In 1980, Nichols met real estate agent Lena Walsh, a twice-divorced mother of 2, who was 5 years his senior. They married and had a son in 1982. During the marriage, Nichols engaged in a succession of part-time and short-term jobs, carpentry work, managing a grain elevator, and selling his life insurance and real estate. According to Lena, she was the one with a career. Nichols was a house husband who spent most of his time at home with the children, cooking and gardening. While in high school, McVeigh became interested in computers and hacked into government computer systems on his Commodore 64 under the handle The Wanderer, taken from a song by Dion DiMucci. In his senior year, he was named Most Promising Computer Programmer of Starpoint Central High School, as well as Most Talkative by his classmates as a joke, as he did not speak much. He was introduced to firearms by his grandfather. McVeigh told people of his wish to become a gun shop owner, and sometimes took firearms to school to impress his classmates. He became intensely interested in gun rights, as well as the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, after he graduated from high school and read magazines such as Soldier of Fortune. He briefly attended Bryant and Stratton College before dropping out. After dropping out, McVeigh worked as an armored car guard and was noted by coworkers as being obsessed with guns. One coworker recalled an instance when McVeigh came to work looking like Pancho Villa as he was wearing bandoliers. In May 1988, at the age of 20, Timothy McVeigh enlisted in the United States Army and attended basic training and advanced individual training at the U.S. Army Infantry School at Fort Bennings, Georgia.
Next 11 weeks, we're going to test your desire and ability to earn the title United States Marine. Your senior drill instructor. He can be identified by the black leather service belt he wears around his waist. Your drill instructors can be identified by the brass waist plate they wear on their duty belt. 99% of your problems can and will be handled by your drill instructors. You will obey all orders quickly and willingly and without question. I will train them to the best of my ability.
I will train them to the best of my ability.
I will develop them into physically fit, specially trained, motivated Marines.
Starting now, you will treat me and all other Marines with the highest respect. You will obey all orders without question. But we have earned our place from Marine Corps, and we will accept nothing less than that from you. I will treat you as I treat my fellow Marines, with firmness, fairness, dignity, and compassion. Nor will I favor with physical harm or abuse you, nor will I tolerate such behavior from anyone else, Marine or recruit. If you've been mistreated, I expect you to report such incidents to me. If you feel that I have mistreated you, I expect you to report it to the series commander, First Lieutenant Bratton. My drill instructors and I will be with you every day, everywhere you go. Drill instructors take charge. Sit up straight! Now, look here! I said I look here! Now, my walls here will no longer be referred to as walls, they'll be referred to as bulkheads. Bulkheads, got that? Sir, yes, sir! These windows here will no longer be referred to as windows, they'll be referred to as portholes. Portholes, got that? Sir, yes, sir! These beds over here will no longer be referred to as beds, they'll be called racks. Racks, got that? Sir, yes, sir!
While in the military, McVeigh used much of his spare time to read about firearms, sniper tactics, and explosives. McVeigh was reprimanded by the military for purchasing a White Power t-shirt at a Ku Klux Klan rally where they were objecting to black servicemen who wore Black Power t-shirts around a military installation. Terry Nichols had never liked farm life, and in 1988, at the age of 33, he tried to escape it by enlisting in the United States Army. He was also sent to Fort Bennings for basic training. As the oldest man in his platoon, he had difficulty with the physical aspect of the training and was sometimes called Grandpa by the other men. However, he soon made the platoon guide because of his age. Timothy McVeigh was in his platoon and quickly got along with their similar backgrounds, as well as their views on gun collecting and survivalism. The two were later stationed together at Fort Riley in Junction City, Kansas, where they met and became friends with their future accomplice, Michael Fortier. Nichols' wife filed for divorce soon after he joined the Army. Due to a conflict over child care, he requested and was given a hardship discharge in May 1989 to return home to take care of his son, who was 7 years old at the time. As he departed, he told a fellow soldier that he would be starting his own military organization soon and would have an unlimited supply of weapons. In 1990, Nichols, now 35, married 17-year-old Mary Torres from the Philippines, whom he met through a mail-order bride agency. When she arrived in Michigan several months later, she was pregnant with another man's child. The child died at age 2 when he was suffocated after getting tangled up with a plastic bag from a banana box that was left overnight in his bedroom. Marie initially suspected foul play from either Nichols or McVeigh, but there were no bruises or signs of trauma to the child. The death was ruled accidental. Nichols and Marie had 2 more children during their marriage. Nichols and Torres frequently visited the Philippines, where she was attending a local college, working on a degree in physical therapy. He sometimes traveled to the Philippines alone, while she remained in Kansas. During the Gulf War, McVeigh was a top-scoring gunner with the M242 25mm cannon of the Bradley fighting vehicles used by the 1st Infantry Division and was promoted to sergeant. After being promoted, McVeigh earned a reputation for assigning undesirable work to black servicemen and using derogatory language. He was stationed at Fort Riley before being deployed on Operation Desert Storm. McVeigh said that he hit an Iraqi tank more than 500 yards away on his first day in the war, and then the Iraqis surrendered. He also decapitated an Iraqi soldier with cannon fire from 1,100 yards away. He said he was later shocked to see carnage on the road while leaving Kuwait City after U.S. troops routed the Iraqi army. McVeigh aspired to join the United States Army Special Forces. After returning from the Gulf War, he entered the selection program, but withdrew on the second day of the 21-day assessment and selection course for the Special Forces, telling other recruits that he had injured an ankle. However, in a letter to his superiors, McVeigh wrote that he was not physically ready. McVeigh decided to leave the Army and was honorably discharged in 1991. McVeigh and Nichols grew closer after McVeigh's discharge from the Army. In December 1991, Nichols invited McVeigh to join him in Michigan and help him out selling military surplus at gun shows. For the next 3 years, McVeigh stayed with Nichols off and on.
I could see the right and wrong of it. The right, I thought, well, it was self-defense. The reason I fired is because I saw a muzzle flash, and I instinctively fired behind that direction. But then I thought, well, at the same time, I'm in this person's country. What right did I have to come over to his country and kill him? How did he ever transgress against me? I went over there hyped up, just like everyone else. Not only is Saddam evil, all Iraqis are evil. What I experienced, though, was an entirely different ballgame. And being face-to-face, close with these people, in personal contact, you realize they're just people like you.
Timothy McVeigh wrote letters to local newspapers complaining about taxes. In 1992, he wrote to the Lockport Union Sun and Journal, "Taxes are a joke. Regardless of what a political candidate promises, they will increase. More taxes are always the answer to government mismanagement. They mess up. We suffer. Taxes are reaching cataclysmic levels, with no slowdown in sight. Is a civil war imminent? Do we have to shed blood to reform the current system? I hope it doesn't come to that, but it might." The Ruby Ridge standoff was the siege of a cabin occupied by the Weaver family in Boundary County, Idaho, in August 1992. Deputies of the United States Marshal Service came to arrest Randy Weaver under a bench warrant for his failure to appear on federal firearms charges after he was given the wrong court date. The charges stemmed from Weaver's sale of a sawed-off shotgun to an undercover federal informant who had induced him to modify the firearm below the legal barrel length. During a surveillance operation, Officer Art Roderick shot Weaver's dog when it ran at them and then pointed his rifle at Weaver's 14-year-old son Samuel, who was armed. Samuel fired back at the marshals and was shot in the back and killed by the team. In the ensuing exchange of fire, Weaver's friend Kevin Harris shot and killed Deputy Marshal William Francis Deegan Jr. Subsequently, Weaver, Harris, and members of Weaver's immediate family refused to surrender. The hostage rescue team of the Federal Bureau of Investigation became involved as the siege was mounted. In the standoff, FBI sniper Lon Horiuchi shot Weaver, then shot Harris, but the second shot also hit and killed Weaver's wife, Vicky. The conflict was ultimately resolved by civilian negotiators, including veteran activist Bo Gritz, who eventually convinced them to surrender. Harris surrendered and was arrested on August 30th. Weaver and his 3 daughters surrendered the next day. Timothy McVeigh was deeply radicalized by the 1992 Ruby Ridge standoff, viewing it as a prime example of federal government overreach and tyranny. He considered the FBI's actions against the Randy Weaver family appalling.
Bill Clinton today accused President Bush of failing on promises to deliver jobs. The Bush campaign fired back that Clinton led Arkansas into slower job growth. Clinton pointed out that Bush promised 30 million new jobs over 8 years, but so far there are less than 1 million.
You think custom picture framing is expensive?
Not at Picture Frame Warehouse.
For only $29.95, we will custom frame any print or poster in your choice of these moldings.
Now is the time, and Picture Frame Warehouse is the place.
Tonight's election update is brought to you by Ponderosa, America's Steakhouse.
Bill Clinton is the winner in the following states. He is the winner right here in the state of Michigan. Clinton is also the winner in the states of Vermont, Georgia, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maine, and the District of Columbia. Also the state of Missouri. As for President Bush, CNN has projected him the winner so far in one state, in the state of Indiana, and that, of course, is Dan Quayle's home state.
My fellow citizens, today we celebrate the mystery of American renewal.
Was it Transformers? Well, now comes word, at least unofficially, sources reporting that it was in fact a bomb that blew up in the parking level underneath the World Trade Center, causing all this, causing a virtual standstill and terror in lower Manhattan.
The floor seemed to have exploded down and collapsed into the level below that.
This morning, New Yorkers, all Americans, awoke to face a new and chilling reality.
There is an immense crater. It's very difficult to imagine what else could have done it other than a bomb.
Overnight, something had changed. Americans were vulnerable.
Fear is another weapon that's used against you. And that's what terrorists are all about.
It's still too early to truly analyze how the city responded. Information is still coming in. But the lessons learned from this experience are sure to make up a new chapter in just how the city will respond to major disasters in the future.
Maybe God is the one, maybe, not for sure, but maybe God is the one that's indicted a good man. God speaks of the things he has made. Revelation says God is the what? Of.
McVeigh worked long hours in a dead-end job and felt that he did not have a home. He sought romance, but his advances were rejected by a coworker, and he felt nervous around women. He believed that he brought too much pain to his loved ones. He grew angry and frustrated at his difficulties in finding a girlfriend, and eventually took up obsessive gambling.
It's not against law to buy a firearm. It's not against law to buy anything that they sell at a gun show. And when this is all resolved, you know, hey, yellow sheet is legal.
On April 19th, 1993, Terry Nichols was watching TV with McVeigh at the Nichols farmhouse in Michigan during the siege of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. When the compound went up in flames, McVeigh and Nichols were enraged and began to plot revenge on the federal government.
5 minutes ago, we saw at this point, like the entire compound is just engulfed in flames.
Now, Jane, we have to go back to the president.
Can you turn it up here?
Escape their nation's internal problems. In so doing, it has risked the lives of thousands of Cubans, and several have already died in their efforts to leave. This action is a cold-blooded attempt to maintain the Castro grip on Cuba and to divert attention from his failed communist policies.
Efforts to create restrictions on assault weapons at the federal government level had intensified in 1989 after the shooting of a teacher and 34 children, 5 of whom died, in Stockton, California, with a semi-automatic Kalashnikov pattern rifle.
One parent was told at one point her child might be okay, and another point child is dead, and no, wait a minute, maybe she's okay. And then finally I brought back the news that her only daughter was killed.
kids that used to wet the bed and didn't anymore will regress, and they'll do some things that are very infantile.
Are they regressing because it was safer when they were younger?
Yes, that's correct.
26-year-old Patrick Edward Purdy attended Cleveland Elementary School from kindergarten to 3rd grade. He also had a criminal history involving drugs, illegal weapons, and prostitution. But there is still no answer to the biggest question of all: why Purdy walked onto the playground at lunchtime and mowed down 35 children and a teacher with automatic weapons before killing himself.
Then there was the Luby's shooting in October 1991, which left 23 people dead and 27 wounded. It was the deadliest mass shooting by a single perpetrator in modern U.S. history, until it was surpassed 16 years later by the Virginia Tech shooting.
We just opened fire, start shooting. It was a nightmare.
It's easy to immediately generalize and wonder, what are we coming to? That people feel that this is the way to solve any problem.
You see it happen elsewhere and you pray that it never happens to you, and unfortunately you can't control people's minds and what they're going to do.
It ranks as the worst mass shooting in U.S. history.
Suddenly, with no warning, a blue pickup truck came crashing through the big glass window of the restaurant's dining room. It was no accident. The driver meant to crash into the dining room, and he kept on accelerating, running over several tables and the people who were sitting at them. The truck finally came to rest completely inside the dining room. Witnesses say he told the people in the restaurant in a loud but clear voice, "This is what Bell County has done to me. Was it worth it? Was it worth it?"
I have insisted that we keep the most profoundly important elements of the crime bill. To keep it tough by putting 100,000 police officers on the street, building more prisons, putting violent criminals away for good. The crime bill must ban handguns for juveniles and take deadly assault weapons off our streets.
The July 1993 101 California Street shooting killed 8 people and wounded 6, also contributing to the passage of the ban. 2 of the 3 firearms that were used in this shooting were Tech 9 semi-automatic handguns with Hellfire triggers.
Even though we've come under intense pressure from forces that will apparently say anything to take the assault weapons out of the bill, I have refused to do so.
The 1994 federal assault weapons ban tried to address public concerns about mass shootings by restricting firearms that met the criteria for what was defined as a semi-automatic assault weapon, as well as magazines that met the criteria for what it defined as a large capacity ammunition feeding device. Timothy McVeigh believed that this banning affected his livelihood.
Innocent Americans should not have to fear being preyed upon as so many do today. Innocent children should not have to fear losing their childhoods as so many do today. We owe it to the American people that do the work and pay the bills in this country to make sure that people who commit crimes get caught, those who are guilty get convicted, and those who are convicted serve their time. We also owe it to them to do whatever we can to prevent crime in the first place. That's what the police and the prevention programs are all about.
He disassociated himself from a childhood friend, Steve Hodge, by sending him a 23-page farewell letter. He proclaimed his devotion to the United States Declaration of Independence, explaining in detail what each sentence meant to him. McVeigh declared that those who betray or subvert the Constitution are guilty of sedition and or treason, are domestic enemies, and should and will be punished accordingly. It also stands to reason that anyone who sympathizes with the enemy or gives aid or comfort to said enemy is likewise guilty. I have sworn to uphold to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will. And I will because not only did I swear to, but I believe in what it stands for, in every bit of my heart, soul, and being. I know in my heart that I am right in my struggle, Steve. I've come to peace with myself, my God, and my cause. Blood will flow in the streets, Steve. Good versus evil. Free men versus socialist wannabe slaves. Pray it is not your blood, my friend. McVeigh told another friend, Michael Fortier, of his plans to blow up a federal building, but Fortier declined to participate. Fortier also told his wife, Lori, about the plans.
FBI sharpshooters killed Weaver's wife and young son. One of the agents involved in the shooting was charged with manslaughter, but the FBI insisted it was an accident, and a federal judge dismissed the charges.
The use of what is no more or less snipers in a domestic non-wartime situation, federal agents taking on the role of judge, jury, and executioner, and then to further add insult to injury, you have these people, these federal agents, not held accountable. They become immune from the law, shaken, disillusioned, angered. That could happen in this country, where our core beliefs are freedom and liberty. And what did you do to these people? You deprived them of life, liberty, and property. You didn't guarantee those rights, you deprived them of them.
That was just Ruby Ridge and Waco. What would you say to that?
I would say I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I think for people that follow the news and follow events, there are patterns of abuse evident.
Thank you, and God bless you all.
Should I trust the government?
But what we do know is that this incredible fire began around 10 minutes after 12, took about 5 or 10 minutes to engulf the entire building. The Branch Davidian compound outside Waco is no more.
Now, federal authorities in Washington are emphasizing two things, Kent, from the releases we're getting here in the news studio. One is they're saying that they believe 2 cult members started that fire. It was an intentional fire. It was no accident at all. And they're also saying definitely that the military units there and federal officials were using a tear gas that was non-flammable.
A paranoia stoked by the inflammatory rhetoric of films like Red Dawn and novels like The Turner Diaries.
The Davidian compound caught fire. Tim watched it and basically began crying and screaming at the television about what was going on. The raids that had been predicted in the Turner Diaries were coming true.
That's why they have promoted every sort of diversity, as they call it. Homosexuals, non-white racial minorities, feminists, their fellow Jews, of course, everybody except normal, healthy, decent white men and women.
The Turner Diaries is a sort of racist fantasy. A small band of revolutionaries committed to a white America eventually overthrows the United States government. Along the way, they slaughter millions of people, blacks, Jews, and what Pierce calls collaborators. Also hanged from lampposts and trees are politicians, reporters, teachers, judges, anyone who rejects Pierce's ideas of racial purity. Pierce left behind a career as a physics professor and joined Rockwell's movement.
That Hitler was in a position much like the police in Los Angeles when the niggers rioted to the point where there was no more possibility of civil order.
Turner Diaries had become McVeigh's Bible. When not selling the book at half price, he gave copies away at gun shows.
If I recall correctly, I think on page 38 describes in great detail how shortly after 9 o'clock in the morning, the hero of the book with some friends put together a truck bomb of approximately 5,000 pounds of fertilizer and fuel and blow up. In this case, the federal building was the FBI office in Washington, but otherwise it's remarkably similar to what happened in Oklahoma City.
Timothy McVeigh initially intended to destroy only a federal building, but he later decided that his message would be more powerful if many people were killed in the bombing. McVeigh's criterion for attack site was that the target should house at least 2 of these 3 federal law enforcement agencies, the ATF, the FBI, and the DEA. In December 1994, McVeigh and Fortier visited Oklahoma City to inspect what would become the target of their campaign, the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The 9-story building, built in 1977, was named for a federal judge and housed 14 federal agencies, including the DEA, ATF, Social Security Administration, and recruiting offices for the Army and Marine Corps. McVeigh chose the Murrah Building because he expected its glass front to shatter under the impact of the blast. He also believed that its adjacent, large, open parking lot across the street might absorb and dissipate some of the force and protect the occupants of nearby non-federal buildings. Oh, how thoughtful. McVeigh also believed that the open space around the building would provide better photo opportunities for propaganda purposes. He planned the attack for April 19, 1995, to coincide with the second anniversary of the Waco siege and the 220th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord during the American Revolution.
You're next! You're next! Wake up and understand! You're next!
Just arrived today. I guess somebody told me a lot of people would be scared to put something on, like this.
McVeigh and Nichols bought or stole the materials they needed to manufacture the bomb and stored them in rented sheds. In August 1994, McVeigh obtained 9 binary explosive kinesticks from gun collector Roger E. Moore in Arkansas, and with Nichols, ignited the devices outside Nichols' home in Harrington, Kansas.
Are you tired of the liberal slant of the news today? Now there's a choice. You've heard Rush Limbaugh talk about the Conservative Chronicle and how each week you'll enjoy credible, intelligent commentary from conservative columnists and cartoonists, thoughtful opinions from syndicated columnists like Dan Quayle, Joseph Sobran, Pat Buchanan, William Buckley, and more. Join the ranks of the truly informed. Subscribe to the Conservative Chronicle and get 52 issues for only $42. Money back guarantee. Call now and subscribe.
This is KOCO-TV, Oklahoma City.
Inside the large ballroom, paint cans, 13 rolls of carpet, new tables, chairs, and mattresses for the rooms. With the winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour, perfect conditions for a multi-alarm fire. The fire was contained to the main building, thanks to firefighters preventing it from spreading.
They took a tremendous beating over there. They hunkered down, the wind was blowing the heat and the smoke right down on top of them, but they stood their ground and saved that part of the building.
One firefighter, Major Danny Sellers, slipped on a wet stairway. He fell backwards on his air pack and injured his back. While co-workers comforted him, others continued the fight.
On September 30th, 1994, Nichols bought 40 50-pound bags of ammonium nitrate fertilizer from Mid-Kansas Coop in McPherson, Kansas, enough to fertilize 12.5 acres of farmland at a rate of 160 pounds of nitrogen per acre, an amount commonly used for corn. Nichols bought an additional 50-pound bag on October 18, 1994. McVeigh originally intended to use hydrazine rocket fuel, but it proved too expensive. McVeigh and his accomplices then attempted to purchase 55 U.S. gallon drums of nitromethane at various NHRA drag racing series events during the season. His first attempt was at the Sears Craftsman Nationals, held at Heartland Motorsports Park in Pauline, Kansas.
The NHRA, the world's largest motorsports sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 300 miles an hour and traveling a quarter mile in less than 5 seconds.
Worldwide Racing Fuels representative Steve LeSueur, one of 3 dealers of nitromethane, was at his unit when he noted a young man in fatigues wanted to purchase nitromethane and hydrazine. Another fuel salesman, Glenn Tipton, of VP Racing Fuels, testified on May 1, 1997, about McVeigh's attempts to buy nitromethane and hydrazine. After the event, Tipton informed Wade Gray of Texas Allied Chemical, a chemical agent for VP Racing Fuels, who informed Tipton of the explosiveness of a nitromethane and hydrazine mixture. McVeigh, using an assumed name, then called Tipton's office. Suspicious of his behavior, Tipton refused to sell McVeigh the fuel. The next round of the NHRA Championship Tour was the Chief Auto Parts Nationals at the Texas Motorplex in Enos, Texas, where McVeigh posed as a motorcycle racer and attempted to purchase nitromethane on the pretext that he and some fellow bikers needed it for racing. However, there were no nitromethane-powered motorcycles at the meeting, and he did not have an NHRA competition license. Steve LeSueur, again, refused to sell McVeigh the fuel because he was suspicious of McVeigh's actions and attitudes. But BP Racing Fuels representative Tim Chambers sold McVeigh 3 barrels. Chambers questioned the purchase of 3 barrels, when typically no more than 5 gallons would be purchased by a Top Fuel Harley rider, and the class was not even raced that weekend. McVeigh rented a storage space in which he stockpiled 7 crates of 18-inch long Tovex sausages, 80 spools of shock tube, and 500 electric blasting caps, which he and Nichols had stolen from a Martin Marietta Aggregates quarry near Marion, Kansas.
Now he's just a little boy stealing little toys, but someday he'll be a grown man stealing stadiums and quarries.
McVeigh made a prototype bomb that was detonated in the desert to avoid detection.
With Ryder's 24-hour number, not only can you get everything you need to make your move easier.
Does Route 60 run through Phoenix? Thanks.
But you can call us with any other questions you have along the way. Oh, and if you rent a truck by November 28th, you get a free Domino's pizza delivered right to your new home.
Make Epperson Photo Video your camcorder headquarters. We offer every major brand of camcorder available, with prices starting at only $4.95.
The president battles to save his Surgeon General. After a 2-year manhunt, the suspected bomber of New York's World Trade Center is arrested. And those salespeople who pester you on the telephone, the government wants 2 rules to make them play fair.
He appears before Judge John Keenan in Manhattan's federal courthouse later today. Yusuf, it's believed, slipped out of the U.S. in the hours after the February 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, in which 6 people were killed. It's alleged he bought the chemicals and led the bomb plot. The Justice Department says Yusuf was captured in Pakistan on Tuesday. In a written statement, Attorney General Janet Reno said Yusuf was turned over to U.S. law enforcement and was flown back to New York on a U.S. plane. President Clinton praised the capture, saying Yusuf's arrest is a major step forward in the fight against terrorism.
The flag in front of the World Trade Center was lowered to half-staff today in remembrance of how, on another snowy day exactly 2 years ago, this signature trophy of American strength was in one frightening puff of smoke transformed into a symbol of vulnerability.
Hi, this is Rosa from the visitor's desk.
All visitors are now monitored, and access to the garage where the bomb went off is strictly limited. There are also now 3 times as many security guards.
If you do it, you're going to be caught quickly, you're going to be brought to trial quickly, you're going to be given very, very severe penalties.
2 years later, that's a somewhat comforting thought, but clearly not enough to ensure it couldn't happen again. Diana Olick, CBS News, New York.
Call now to order Tony Little's Road to Recovery. This 3-tape series is just $59.95.
Got "eat me" written all over you.
He was brave.
I'm flying! Penguins can't fly?
He was the best friend.
What do you call a flower before it opens?
A bud.
I love it when you call me Bud.
UB ever had. The Pebble and the Penguin. Rated G. Starts Wednesday, April 12th at theaters everywhere.
Hi. Hey. Fred's taking Andy to the ball game. I wanted you to see how cute he looked before they left.
Oh, you look...
On April 14th, 1995, McVeigh paid for a room at the Dreamland Motel in Junction City, Kansas.
The young man seemed to be a kind, outgoing person. He was friendly, he didn't take a lot of time up. He came and did go as a regular customer. not like some people who come in are distraught or depressed, and I have to pay attention to him. He seemed to be a nice guy, right? Like your next door boy.
The next day, he rented a 1993 Ford F700 truck from Ryder under the name Robert D. Kling, an alias he adopted because he knew an Army soldier named Kling, with whom he shared physical characteristics, and because it reminded him of the Klingon warriors of Star Trek. On April 16th, he and Nichols drove to Oklahoma City, where he parked a getaway car, a yellow 1977 Mercury Marquess, several blocks from the Murrah Federal Building. The nearby Regency Towers apartment's lobby security camera recorded images of Nichols' blue 1984 GMC pickup truck on April 16th.
Watch for David Alan Grier in Fox's Countdown to Summer. The explosive 2-hour season finales of 90210, Melrose Place, and The X-Files.
Federal agent!
After removing the car's license plate, he left a note covering the VIN plate that read, "Not abandoned, please do not tow, will move by April 23rd, needs battery and cable." Both men then returned to Kansas. On April 17th through 18th, 1995, McVeigh and Nichols removed the bomb supplies from their storage unit in Harrington, Kansas, where Nichols lived, and loaded them into the Ryder rental truck. They then drove to Geary Lake State Park, where they nailed boards onto the floor of the truck to hold the 13 barrels in place and mixed the chemicals using plastic buckets and a bathroom scale. Each filled barrel weighed nearly 500 pounds. McVeigh added more explosives to the driver's side of the cargo bay so he could ignite at close range with his Glock 21 pistol in case the primary fuses failed. During McVeigh's trial, Lori Fortier stated that McVeigh claimed to have arranged the barrels in order to form a shaped charge. This was achieved by tamping, placing material against explosives opposite the target of the explosion, the aluminum side panel of the truck, with bags of ammonium nitrate fertilizer to direct the blast laterally toward the building. Specifically, McVeigh arranged the barrels in the shape of a backwards J. He later said that for pure destructive power, he would have put the barrels on the side of the cargo bay closest to the Murrah building. However, such an unevenly distributed 7,000-pound load might have broken an axle, flipped the truck over, or at least caused it to lean to one side, which could have drawn attention. All or most of the barrels of ANNM, ammonium nitrate nitromethane mixture, contain metal cylinders of Vaseline intended to increase the fireball and the brisance of the explosion. The use of a Ryder truck and the bomb material was an extremely similar technique used in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing.
As members of the Order, we are to be the bearers of the faith.
Fiction from the Turner Diaries. The reality that followed. On Whidbey Island in Washington State, a small group of extremists ended a violent crime spree in a fiery showdown with federal agents in 1984. Their name, The Order, straight out of the Turner Diaries. Like their counterparts in the novel, their enemies were Jews, blacks, and the government. In a little over a year, they stole $4 million in armed robberies, bombed a synagogue, and murdered 3 people, including Jewish talk show host Alan Berg, who was machine gunned to death outside his home.
Is it okay with you to assassinate someone?
Yes, it is okay to assassinate someone when one is engaged in a war.
Just before I turned you on from 8 to 9, they had the ABC close-up button. They were doing McCarthy hearings. 11,000 people that
one of my favorite stories.
lost their jobs because they're accused of being communists.
One of the most tragic eras in our country.
30 years later it was. And it was 30 years later and these people were still trying to find a job because they've gone from job to job ever since the first been fired for being...
Many people blackballed and suicides, what have you. All kinds of grotesque stories connected to some of the greatest people in this world. Based upon one maniac who scared everybody into an alleged communist threat to this country. All you had to do was say the word and you were dead. Talk about a deprivation of civil rights. There was never an uglier story. McCarthyism was trial by association, guilt by association. And it's the very thing people are trying to do now. See, it never goes away. McCarthyism is always a hairline away.
Well, I think the judge is too close to the bar.
Well, keep laughing. I hope you're having a good time with yourself, and I imagine he always does.
When he first got it, he read it, constantly for 3 or 4 weeks. And he kept wanting me to read it. He said, you got to read this book. You got to read this book.
McVeigh then added a dual fuse ignition system accessible from the truck's front cab. He drilled 2 holes in the cab of the truck under the seat, while 2 more holes were drilled in the body of the truck. 1 green cannon fuse was run through each hole into the cab. These time-delayed fuses led from the cab through a plastic fish tank tubing conduit to 2 sets of non-electric blasting caps, which would ignite about 350 pounds of the high-grade explosives that McVeigh stole from a rock quarry. The tubing was painted yellow to blend in with the truck's livery and duct taped in place to the wall to make it harder to disable by yanking from the outside. The fuses were set up to initiate through shock tubes, the 350 pounds of Tovex Blastrite gel sausages, which would in turn set off the configuration of barrels. Of the 13 filled barrels, 9 contain ammonium nitrate and nitromethane, and 4 contain a mixture of the fertilizer and about 4 U.S. gallons of diesel fuel. Additional materials and tools used for manufacturing the bomb were left in the truck to be destroyed in the blast. After finishing the truck bomb, the 2 men separated. Nichols returned home to Harrington, and McVeigh traveled with the truck to Junction City. The bomb cost about $5,000, equivalent to $11,000 in 2026, to make. McVeigh's original plan had been to detonate the bomb at 11 a.m., but at dawn, on April 19, 1995, he decided instead to destroy the building at 9 a.m. As he drove toward the Murrah Federal Building in the Ryder truck, McVeigh carried with him an envelope containing pages from the Turner Diaries, a fictional account of white supremacists who ignited a revolution by blowing up the FBI headquarters at 9:15 one morning using a truck bomb. October 13th, 1991, at 9:15 yesterday morning, our bomb went off in the FBI's National Headquarters building. Our worries about the relatively small size of the bomb were unfounded. The damage is immense. We have certainly disrupted a major portion of the FBI's headquarters operations for at least the next several weeks, and it looks like we have achieved our goal of wrecking their new computer complex. My day's work started a little before 5 o'clock yesterday. As we drove by the building, we saw that the basement entrance was open and no one was in sight. We signaled Henry and kept going for another 7 or 8 blocks until we found a good spot to park. Then we began walking back slowly, keeping an eye on our watches. We were still 2 blocks away when the pavement shuddered violently under our feet. An instant later, the blast wave hit us, a deafening ka-whoomp, followed by an enormous roaring, crashing sound, accentuated by the higher-pitched noise of shattering glass all around us. McVeigh wore a printed t-shirt with Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants, what according to legend Brutus said before the assassination of Julius Caesar, and is also claimed to have been shouted by John Wilkes Booth immediately after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And the Tree of Liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants, from Thomas Jefferson. He also carried an envelope full of revolutionary materials that included a bumper sticker with the slogan, falsely attributed to Thomas Jefferson, "When the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny." Underneath, McVeigh had written, "Maybe now there will be liberty," with a hand-copied quote by John Locke, asserting that a man has a right to kill someone who takes away his liberty. The plate glass windows in the store beside us and dozens of others that we could see along the street were blown to splinters. A glittering and deadly rain of glass shards continued to fall into the street from the upper stories of nearby buildings for a few seconds, as a jet-black column of smoke shot straight up into the sky ahead of us. We ran the final 2 blocks and were dismayed to see that, at first glance, appeared to be an entirely intact FBI headquarters, except, of course, that most of the windows were missing. Dense, choking smoke was pouring from the ramp leading to the basement, and it was out of the question to attempt to enter there. Dozens of people were scurrying around the freight entrance to the central courtyard, some going in and some coming out. Many were bleeding profusely from cuts, and all had expressions of shock or dazed belief on their faces. George and I took deep breaths and hurried through the entrance. No one challenged us or even gave us a second glance. The scene in the courtyard was one of utter devastation. The whole Pennsylvania Avenue wing of the building, as we could then see, had collapsed, partly into the courtyard in the center of the building, and partly into Pennsylvania Avenue. A huge gaping hole yawned in the courtyard pavement just beyond the rubble of the collapsed masonry, and it was from this hole that most of the column of black smoke was ascending. McVeigh entered Oklahoma City at 8:50 a.m. At 8:57 a.m., the Regency Towers Apartments lobby security camera that had recorded Nichols' pickup truck 3 days earlier recorded the Ryder truck heading toward the Murrah Federal Building. At the same moment, McVeigh lit the 5-minute fuse. 3 minutes later, still a block away, he lit the 2-minute fuse. He parked the Ryder truck in a drop-off zone situated under the building's daycare center, exited, and locked the truck. As he headed to his getaway vehicle, he dropped the keys to the truck a few blocks away. At 9:02 a.m., the Ryder truck, containing over 4,800 pounds of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, nitromethane, and diesel fuel mixture, detonated in front of the north side of the 9-story Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building.
There are 4 elements that I have to
state and
receive information regarding.
Everybody, let's get out of here. Now, watch the electricity line. Watch the light. Watch the light. Get out. Out the back door. All the way to your right. Hurry. All right. Back door. They can't get out.
Overturned trucks and automobiles, smashed office furniture, and building rubble were strewn wildly about, and so were the bodies of a shockingly large number of victims. Over everything hung the pall of black smoke, burning our eyes and lungs and reducing the bright morning to semi-darkness. We took a few steps into the courtyard in order to better evaluate the damage we had caused. We had to wade through a waist-deep sea of paper, which had spilled out of a huge jumble of file cabinets to our right. Perhaps 1,000 of them. It looked like they had slid en masse into the courtyard from one of the upper stories of the collapsed wing. The shockwave of the explosion forced the lower floors upward before the 4th and 5th floors collapsed onto the 3rd floor, which housed a transfer beam that ran the length of the building and was being supported by 4 pillars below, as well as supporting the pillars that hold the upper floors. The added weight meant that the 3rd floor gave away along with the transfer beam, which in turn caused the collapse of the building.
I'm Tammy Payne in the TV9 newsroom. If you are anywhere downtown, you probably heard it and felt it. An explosion of some kind downtown Oklahoma City. Take a look at this picture. This is our tower cam shot, a plume of smoke rising in the air. I was on the phone with one of the fire chiefs, John Hanson, just moments ago. We were talking. He said, wow, there's been some kind of explosion in downtown Oklahoma City. The minute he said it, we felt what I guess is some type of aftershock, maybe a second explosion that we felt all the way here at Wilshire and Kelly at Newsline 9. This is a live picture right now downtown Oklahoma City. Robin, have you got some more
They're
information?
just saying that it was near the YMCA, and apparently there are numerous injuries, just so you have that.
Initial reports, numerous injuries.
The debris has completely covered the street. It's blown from downtown north across the street. And it's just totally devastating. It's 1/3 of the building.
Jesse, this looks like a war zone down there.
Most definitely. It looks like something you see on the evening news in Europe, maybe in Bosnia, where a shelling would occur. Obviously, no shelling here, some sort of explosion, but very powerful to take out that much of the building.
I tell you what, we felt it here at Newsline 9. We're getting calls from towns all around who have said they felt something. They want to know what's going on. That's why we're staying with you live. We want to get injury information to you just as soon as possible. Jesse, I know you're standing by there. We're going to let you go and see if you can get some more information. Another individual on the phone at the Bricktown Brewery, one of the nearby buildings, their windows blew. Are you with me right now?
Yes.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Tell us what you know. What happened to the brewery down there, Jim Cohen?
The damage that we sustained was on our 3rd and 4th floor. Windows just totally were blown out. We had no idea what was going on until we went up there and then looked out the windows and saw the big cloud of smoke from the downtown area.
Jim, how about your workers? Do you have injuries there, or was it quiet?
Absolutely no injuries here. There's no damage to the first 2 floors. It was just the windows and then just the shaking of the building. It was almost like being in an earthquake.
That's exactly what it felt like here. What went through your mind?
Well, from living in California in the past, earthquakes went through my mind, and I just couldn't believe it would happen here, but luckily that wasn't it.
We're getting word right now, for those of you who have people who work downtown, stay there with me, Jim, if you can. It's the Alfred Murrah building. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate you joining us. Live all the time.
Just a blast.
What were you two doing? Who did you run into? Tell me before, during, and after you can.
Just sitting at my desk working. All of a sudden, an explosion, roof caved in, and started trying to find people that I worked with.
After that, now where are you guys headed?
MC unit. Yeah, I worked for Kerr McGee, and I was on the 6th floor of our building, and I heard this loud blast, and it sounded like a bomb or something, and then all of a sudden there was a lot of glass and materials flying into our building. So I ran down the stairs and came out and looked, and I saw all of this black smoke and everything, and I ran up here, and then I saw all of the injured children. Just went and tried to see if I could be of assistance in some kind of a way. So I ran up the street, didn't really know what had happened, but I saw all of the smoke and everything, and so I saw this youngster. There was a lot of youngsters there. I'm going to fight for if somebody's got a vehicle that can take her.
They're ready to take her. The high patrolman.
Man, where's the vehicle at? Where's one of y'all's
vehicles? There's another high patrolman taking.
And something had run into our building, and so I decided to take the steps and try to get out of there. And I came down and I saw that it wasn't our building, but some other building that had exploded. And so I ran up here, and just like everybody else, I'm amazed at all the damage that I see and all the pearl around. But, you know, in this time, all we can do is just be of as much assistance as we can to those who are injured and try to get them to some medical care.
You're doing a great job. We all of us in Oklahoma City, thank you for what you've done today.
Tammy mentioned disturbing news a little while ago that there's a daycare center also in that building, 30 children in that building.
It is said he is to computer software what Thomas Edison is to the light bulb.
Companies are responding, showing employees what's no longer tolerated.
Could you please make a copy of that? Sorry.
The bombing in Oklahoma City was an attack on
innocent children and defenseless citizens. It was an act of cowardice, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate it, and I will not allow the people of this country to be intimidated by evil cowards.
Hey, Jean, how are you feeling? Much better, except for this pile of bills. Oh, thanks. Wow, you weren't even in the hospital that long. Long enough. Look, bill, check. Oh, company benefit? Not a chance. That money goes to the hospital. This money is mine. Oh, who's it from? It's my first day 500 hospital cash insurance plan. You get $500 the first day you're in the hospital, then $250 every day after that. Sounds great. But I have an HMO. I don't need that. Don't count on it. Look, this is what I owe after the insurance is paid. Not to mention the mortgage, car payments. Believe me, you really need the cash. Is it expensive? It's already paid for itself the first time I used it. How can I get it? It's easy. Let me get you the number.
Call this number now, because if you're age 18 to 59, you're eligible for the first day 500 hospital cash plan. These days, if you're in the hospital, you have a lot to come home to. Higher deductibles, co-payments. No matter what type of insurance you have, and especially if you don't have any, you'll probably owe more than you think. That's why you need First Day 500. First Day because it pays from hospital day one. 500 because that's how much you collect. $500 right up front. Then $250 every day after that for accident or illness. No deductibles, no limit to how much you collect, and no restrictions on doctors or hospitals. This is cash direct to you for every covered hospital stay, paid regardless of whether or not you have other insurance. Don't wait until you're faced with a pile of bills. Call now.
That was easy. Now I feel better, too.
If you're age 18 to 59, you're eligible for these supplemental cash benefits. Call 1-800-642-7400 for your free information from National Home Life Assurance Company. That's 1-800-642-7400.
We had a daycare center on the second floor. We will keep you updated on injuries and the children as we get that information, Kelly.
Tammy, we have former Oklahoma Congressman Dave McCurdy with us on the telephone from Washington, D.C. Dave, I don't think you have probably seen the pictures yet here from Oklahoma City, or have you?
Well, Kelly, I've seen some reports of the damage and obviously the terrible injuries that have occurred. What provoked me to call and to follow up is that I recently spoke on Islamic fundamentalism to a group in New York City with a man who produced a documentary, Steve Emerson, that actually reported that Oklahoma City has some of the earliest centers, was one of the earliest centers of Islamic fundamentalism and potential terrorist activities of any city in the United States, and that there's a very real infrastructure in place for that kind of activity.
Discovery Zone. Anytime, any day. Come in and play.
Again, that I have not gotten that information from any sources within my agency or an agency investigating the bombing. But yes, it would be likely that a crater would be left from a large explosion.
It must not be lost on members of your agency that this is the second anniversary of the tragedy in Waco, Texas, a tragedy that those cult members blamed on your agency, on the ATF. Any response from your people on that? Does that concern you that it happens on this anniversary date?
We're treating this as an independent event that we will investigate and follow down all potential leads and avenues. As I said earlier, we're not going to jump to any conclusions.
In the federal building and other buildings in downtown Oklahoma City, if you're trying to get through down there, the phone lines are extremely busy. The phone company would ask you to stay off the phone. Get your information through us if you can. We're going to provide it as quickly as we get it. Cellular phone traffic is extremely heavy right now. Please stay off your cellular phones here in the metro area. The emergency crews need them. You can see I believe this is a live picture, and that is a ladder truck from the Oklahoma City Fire Department. It looks like trying to rescue or at least looking for victims inside the Alfred P. Murrah building.
Humans are responding. We're getting word at the blood bank 50th and Portland. There is a line over a block long. Individuals in line to give blood to help out this morning, and there is quite a need. Carnage in downtown Oklahoma City right now.
That's the picture from St. Anthony just a little bit earlier. Oklahoma Memorial Hospital is in a code black, meaning they can take no more. We are also told a little bit earlier that the FBI offices at 50 Penn Place, several miles from downtown Oklahoma City, have been evacuated. 50 Penn Place FBI offices evacuated as well this morning.
We are also getting word now that the governor is asking all state employees to go home for the day. Is this correct? Is this a security precaution? We should say that we have not confirmed. There's been no official confirmation that this was a bomb blast. But from some of the actions that are being taken by state officials, we wonder whether they have information we don't have yet. The National Guard has been called in to respond, which is normal under these circumstances. Will help with crowd control and communications and such. Still don't know if anybody is responsible for this, if this was done purposely, or who. We're trying to reach the FBI but have not been able to do so.
Initially, the FBI had 3 hypotheses about responsibility for the bombing. International terrorists, possibly the same group that had carried out the World Trade Center bombing. A drug cartel, carrying out an act of vengeance against DEA agents in the building's DEA office, and anti-government radicals attempting to start a rebellion against the federal government. An estimated 650 people were inside the building when the bomb exploded.
Treating people here on the side of the road about a block away from the federal building. I was just talking to this man right here named Ron. Ron, can you come over here? Ron, you were at the YMCA when the blast happened. Tell me what you felt and what you did.
Well, I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I just heard a blast, and there was glass, and my TV was on top of me, and that was it. It happened so fast. It happened just like that.
By the end of the day, 14 adults and 6 children were confirmed dead and over 100 injured. The toll eventually reached 167 confirmed dead, not including an unmatched left leg that could have belonged to an unidentified 168th victim. Most of the deaths resulted from the collapse of the building rather than the bomb blast itself. Those killed included 163 who were in the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, 1 person in the Athenian Building, 1 woman in a parking lot across the street, and a man and woman in the Oklahoma Water Resources Building. A rescue worker, Rebecca Anderson, was indirectly killed after the bombing. She was struck on the head by falling debris during rescue efforts and is not counted in the direct death toll of the bombing. The victims ranged in age from 3 months to 73 years and included 3 pregnant women. Temporary silences were observed at the blast site so that sensitive listening devices capable of detecting human heartbeats could be used to locate survivors. In some cases, limbs had to be amputated without anesthetics, avoided because of the potential to induce shock in order to free those trapped under rubble. The scene had to be periodically evacuated as the police received tips claiming that other bombs had been planted in the building.
Okay. I understand Mayor Norick is with us now.
Mayor Norick, I guess, have you been listening to this information?
Yes, I have.
I guess we may have been assuming that we'd seen the worst of the injuries, but it sounds from what we're hearing at the scene that perhaps there's another wave coming. Are we ready for that?
Well, to quote an old famous scholar once said, "Makalaka high, makalaka hiney ho." Howard Stern rule.
Obviously, we do not have a connection with the mayor or someone else. We're sorry about that. This coverage is coming to you as it happens, and
At 10:28 a.m., rescuers found what they believed to be a second bomb. Some rescue workers refused to leave until police ordered the evacuation of a 4-block area around the site.
Seeing that this building was right in it and my mom's in there.
And that they have disarmed 1 device at the scene.
this is a video that we just got in just a couple of moments ago. Our photojournalist R.D. Rowland shot this. He would have shot that about 15 minutes ago. This This is a rescue from the Alfred P. Murrah building. You can see a firefighter helping a man down a ladder. It looks like from the 3rd or 4th floor of that federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. Now this, what you're seeing, is what they have considered evidence, some kind of evidence, and they had everyone moving back.
You okay, sir? Yeah, I'm fine. That was quite miraculous, wasn't it?
Thank God I'm alive. That's all I can say.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Brian Espy.
You here okay?
I'm fine.
Are you?
Yeah.
How do you think that happened?
I happen to be in the only part of the 5th floor, our part of the 5th floor that isn't gone. If somebody did this, what could be their motive? To hurt that many innocent people.
Well, I'm thankful that you're okay.
Thank you.
The 2nd floor of the building collapsed on top of the nursery, and so there were many children that were brought out. And the police officers who rescued them said that the injuries were horrific, that shrapnel was just blown all through the rooms and they were caved in upon. There were also a lot of walking wounded people who were coming from upstairs. Their co-workers were helping them down, and there were people there who had begun the triage unit. There were a lot of people sitting around just in a daze. There you can see one of the police officers who had volunteered and rushed in to try to save some of the children. He is a 15-year veteran, and he told me that he has never seen anything like this. It's more than just emotional down here. People are devastated by what they're seeing. Everyone keeps saying, I can't believe this is happening in Oklahoma City. Again, right before we had to back up because of the threat of another bomb, there were a lot more ambulance units on the scene, and they were starting to call for more sophisticated life-saving equipment. And at that time is when the panic occurred, and we all had to back up and run. Jennifer?
It appeared to be a little boy, probably a toddler, that Don Hull of the Oklahoma City Police Department was holding there. Were there others that you saw that were injured? Do we have any idea if the majority of the kids in the center survived, or?
Let me tell you, here at St. Anthony's, they have 57 people. They have 3 people in ICU. They have 4 people in surgery right now. And let me tell you also, one of the children that we've been talking about, one of the 6 that died downtown, was brought here, DOA, on arrival. Although I did talk with one family who is lucky to have their little child alive. Let's take a look at that sound.
Tell me what happened?
Don't know what happened, just a blast.
What were you 2 doing? Who did you run into? Tell me before, during, and after the jam.
Just sitting at my desk working. All of a sudden, explosion, roof caved in, and started trying to find people that I worked with.
Just went and tried to see if I could be of assistance in some kind of a way.
You know who you're holding right now?
No.
Go with this trooper, okay? Where'd he go?
Well, let me tell you, that wasn't the video we had hoped for, but obviously distraught people down here. Everybody's searching for loved ones. Again, you can come down here to 10th and Lee.
Third, we are taking every precaution to reassure and to protect people who work in or live near other federal facilities. Let there be no room for doubt. We will find the people who did this.
Bud. Wines. Bud. Bud. Wines. Bud. Bud. Wines.
Governor Bush.
Got a great intelligence network. I'm convinced that we'll find the terrorists and bring him or her to justice.
Timothy McVeigh was arrested within 90 minutes of the explosion as he was traveling north on Interstate 35 near Perry, Noble County, Oklahoma. Oklahoma State Trooper Charlie Hanger stopped McVeigh for driving his yellow 1977 Mercury Marquis without a license plate and arrested him for having a concealed weapon. For his home address, McVeigh falsely claimed he resided at Terry Nichols' brother James's house in Michigan. After booking McVeigh in jail, Trooper Hanger searched his patrol car and found a business card which had been concealed by McVeigh after being handcuffed. Written on the back of the card, which was from a military surplus store in Antigua, Wisconsin, were the words, "TNT at $5 a stick. Need more." The card was later used as evidence during McVeigh's trial. While investigating the VIN on the axle of the truck used in the explosion and the remnants of the license plate, federal agents were able to link the truck to a specific rider rental agency in Junction City, Kansas. Using a sketch created with the assistance of Eldon Elliott, owner of the agency, the agents were able to implicate McVeigh in the bombing. McVeigh was also identified by Leah McGowan of the Dreamland Motel, who remembered him parking a large yellow Ryder truck in the lot. McVeigh had signed in under his real name at the motel, using an address that matched the one on his forged license in the charge sheet at the Perry police station. Before signing his real name at the motel, McVeigh had used false names for his transactions. McGowan noted, "People are so used to signing their own name that when they go to sign a phony name, they almost always go to write and then look up for a moment as if to remember the new name they want to use." That's what McVeigh did, and when he looked up, I started talking to him, and it threw him.
Of course, many adjacent buildings, much the same size of the device that went off in the underground parking garage at the World Trade Center in New York a couple of years ago.
At number 460-5988, there is help for you. Just speaking about this helps to clear your mind a little bit. I want you to meet Dr. Cheryl DeGang. Said your name correctly. She is a child psychologist who came from Tulsa. We have had a number of people come from Tulsa to help us here tonight. Dr. DeGang, what kinds of questions are you getting?
Primarily, a lot of the questions that I've been getting from youth are, how do I help? You know, I'm 12 years old and my friend's parents aren't home. How do I help? And 14-year-olds and 9-year-olds. And my suggestion to them is to reach out to their friends if they can, to talk to their teachers when they get to school tomorrow, to be open to talking about what it's been like and if it's been scary.
I don't know if the success of the Slinky got to Richard James, but in 1960 he abandoned it and his wife and 6 children to join a religious cult in Bolivia, where he died in 1974. But the Slinky will remain his legacy as one of the few toys you can take for a walk without a leash, knowing it will not be making pit stops at every rose bush and fire hydrant in the neighborhood.
Clinton announced that a crisis team has been sent to Oklahoma City. He's also declared a state of emergency for the city. The Oklahoma City blast brings back some frightening memories of another bombing 2 years ago. 6 people were killed and more than 1,000 injured when terrorists bombed New York's World Trade Center in February of 1993. Today's blast bears an uncanny resemblance to the terrorist car bombing that rocked the World Trade Center. Both happened in the morning, and both bombs were about the same size. Today marks the 2nd anniversary of the Waco cult compound burning in Texas.
Here you're looking earlier tonight, nighttime scenes. The whole scene of devastation is alight tonight in floodlights. The rescue workers continue going in there, trying their best to listen for a sound, to try to get any sign of a survivor. As you might have heard just a moment ago, a reporter at the scene said that 2 survivors had been brought out tonight, but another person, a survivor, is still trapped in the basement, and rescue workers are trying to get at her. The rescue people have brought in dogs whose ears, of course, can hear things humans cannot hear, hoping the dogs can pick up the sound, the faint cry, perhaps, of a survivor under the rubble there.
It's a very slow, tedious process of removing the debris and extricating the fatalities and searching for survivors. You know, you hope and you pray that every time you turn a stone, there'll be a survivor somewhere. It hurts deep down as to why someone would do something of this magnitude. It's unreal.
With me now is Dr. Gary Massett, who is one of the physicians who was inside helping rescue officials try to rescue people, as well as doing what you needed to do to get them out. Can you tell us about the one case that you worked on?
Well, there was a young 20-year-old black female who was trapped underneath 2 concrete blocks and a slab of steel, and complicated by the fact that there was rebar over her, and there was no clear operating field in which we could access in order to assess whether or not we could amputate her leg to remove her from the debris. In addition to that, the Oklahoma City Fire Department, who did a marvelous job today, along with the Oklahoma City Police Department, had not really secured that portion of the building as much as they'd like. However, time was running out, and a decision was made to go ahead and, with a multiple approach, team effect, that we would go down and assess whether or not we could possibly try to remove the 20-year-old female from the debris. She had been in water for about 4 or 5 hours most of the day. Most of the physicians were on their stomachs trying to assess the ability to amputate her leg on the spot. There were several physicians involved doing that process. We were able to secure her, create a field which to operate, and we amputated the leg on the spot, and Dr. Sullivan did a marvelous job, and we removed her to Oklahoma Memorial Hospital.
What kind of condition is she in, do you know?
As far as I know, she's stable, and she's missing her right lower leg at the knee.
What are some of your thoughts on the situation in Oklahoma City?
Well, this was a horrible trauma, and when you have a trauma like this, it has a very profound effect on those who are involved, and also has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect for all of us who, can imagine this kind of incident happening and can feel very empathetic with the victims in Oklahoma City.
From Iraq to Iran, from Cairo to Beirut, there was sharp condemnation and denials of responsibility from groups often associated with terrorism. In Lebanon, a spokesman for the Iranian-backed Hezbollah said, "We are only interested in liberating our land from the Israeli occupation. We have no relation with the explosion inside the United States." Many Palestinians worry they will automatically be blamed. Every time there's an attack, he says, people always try to connect it to the Palestinians.
It's just crucifixion war against Islam.
PLO leader Yasser Arafat condemned the attack as cowardly, as did Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. In Israel, many people said they understood from first-hand experience how Americans feel.
Now I think they will understand better the thing that we are sharing in Israel.
Only Iran suggested suspects, American suspects.
It has been said that an extremist Christian group stationed in Idaho and Oklahoma states are suspected of the terrorist move.
If anybody knows of anything, this is my mom. She's 47. She's about 5'2" and weighs about 150 pounds. And I'm 22 years old. I'm too young to lose my mother.
The FBI today released sketches of 2 men wanted for questioning. The 2 reportedly rented a truck that possibly carried a half-ton of explosives that blew up the building yesterday morning. The FBI says it has many good leads with good substance, but no arrests yet. Tonight, a 3rd man wanted for questioning returned to Washington aboard a British Airways jet. He was detained in London while en route to Rome.
Every rock I grab and throw, I'm thinking that our hand is going to reach up through that little hole and say, I'm here, but that hasn't happened so far.
Search crews confirm that there are more inside. More than 400 people have been treated at area hospitals for injuries ranging in severity. There is little hope now of finding more survivors inside.
All my friends are missing. I don't know where any of them are. It's just like somebody picked up the building and slammed it back down again. Then there was smoke, people were screaming. Everybody started running.
There was a whole area where there was baby beds and toys and just all kinds of little stuff that belonged to kids, and little walkers and stuff like that was just strolled about and really bloody. And it's, how can you describe that? It's how many people of you here have kids, and could you imagine your kid being vaporized by a bomb? I have 5, and I love my kids, every one of them. And I had a daughter that had a kidney surgery last week, and I thought that was the end of the world for me. I couldn't sleep for days. I stayed by her bed the whole time, And to think to be sitting at home, having to watch the TV, waiting for information about my child, and then probably eventually find out that they're dead. My God, I feel so sorry for those parents, and their brothers and sisters and survivors,
After an April 21st, 1995 court hearing on the gun charges, but before McVeigh's release, federal agents took him into custody as they continued their investigation into the bombing. Rather than talk to investigators about the bombing, McVeigh demanded an attorney. Having been tipped off by the arrival of police and helicopters that a bombing suspect was inside, a restless crowd began to gather outside the jail. McVeigh's requests for a bulletproof vest or transport by helicopter were denied, but authorities did use a helicopter to transport him from Perry to Oklahoma City.
Timothy McVeigh, age 27, who we previously called John Doe Number 1, the man with the light brown crew cut, was arrested by local authorities.
Federal agents obtained a warrant to search the house of McVeigh's father, Bill, after which they broke down the door and wired the house and telephone with listening devices. FBI investigators used the information gained, along with the fake address McVeigh had been using, to begin their search for the Nichols brothers, Terry and James. On April 21st, 1995, Terry Nichols learned that he was being hunted and turned himself in. Investigators discovered incriminating evidence at his home: ammonium nitrate and blasting caps, the electric drill used to drill out the locks at the quarry, books on bomb making, a copy of Hunter, a 1989 novel by William Luther Pierce, author of the Turner Diaries, and founder and chairman of National Alliance, and a hand-drawn map of downtown Oklahoma City, on which the Murrah building and the spot where McVeigh's getaway car was hidden were marked. After a 9-hour interrogation, Terry Nichols was held in federal custody until his trial. On April 25th, 1995, James Nichols was also arrested, but he was released after 32 days due to a lack of evidence. McVeigh's sister, Jennifer, was accused of illegally mailing ammunition to McVeigh, but she was granted immunity in exchange for testifying against him.
And they've got to be reassuring that they're safe, that they're very secure in their environment, and that these things do happen. They happen in small scale in Cleveland all the time. They happen in a much larger scale once in a while, but help the children deal with the stress that they're going to feel, because they will see children brought out of the wreckage. We've seen that. They'll know that there were children who were killed in this kind of incident. And what happens when you have this kind of very, very sharp trauma is that everybody gets a little more sensitive to the anxieties that may not even be related to that, but other anxieties in their own lives, other stress in their own lives. So what we've seen in Cleveland, and we're beginning to see this now, is a lot of sensitivity around the federal buildings, certainly, around other buildings, around daycare installations, and we all have to have a little perspective to help our children deal with it.
The anger you feel is valid, but you must not allow yourselves to be consumed by it. The hurt you feel must not be allowed to turn into hate, but instead into the search for justice.
When he was a little kid, like many little kids, he was picked on by bullies, and he started to look at the U.S. government as the biggest bully in the world.
Already, many U.S. buildings have been made safer. Perhaps the best example, the World Trade Center, bombed by terrorists in 1993. But now, anti-vehicle barricades block the entrances to the underground garages. They can stop a car doing 50 miles an hour. Are opened only to drivers with valid credentials. And these new planters are not part of a beautification program. They're 6,000-pound concrete barricades which surround the Trade Center to block a suicide bomber from smashing into the lobby with a car or truck bomb.
What the rain is going to do, it's going to help the scent in terms that there won't be as much dust for the dogs.
Our firefighters are starting to get into the daycare area. It's going to be about 6 to 8 hours before we get heavily into it. But they're bringing a lot of toys out and stuff. And when we were in there, they found a fire truck, and they thought it was a little sentimental of why they were there. Kind of a tribute to the kids that have been sending their cards and letters in support of our efforts. And it kind of helps us remain focused of why we're in there. I'll be right down there. Okay. John?
The bombing, rescue, and recovery efforts were concluded at 12:05 a.m. on May 5th, by which time the bodies of all but 3 of the victims had been recovered. No major federal financial assistance was made available to the survivors of the Oklahoma City bombing, but the Murrah Fund, set up in the wake of the bombing, attracted over $300,000 in federal grants.
There are a lot of people who didn't have insurance.
For safety reasons, the building was initially slated to be demolished shortly afterward. McVeigh's attorney, Stephen Jones, filed a motion to delay the demolition until the defense team could examine the site in preparation for the trial. At 7:02 a.m. on May 23rd, more than a month after the bombing, the Murrah Federal Building was demolished. The FBI led the official investigation, known as OKBOMB, with Weldon L. Kennedy acting as special agent in charge. Kennedy oversaw 900 federal, state, and local law enforcement personnel, including 300 FBI agents, 200 officers from the Oklahoma City Police Department, 125 members of the Oklahoma National Guard, and 55 officers from the Oklahoma Department of Public Safety. The Crime Task Force was deemed the largest since the investigation into the assassination of John F. Kennedy, with FBI agents conducting 28,000 interviews, amassing 3.5 short tons of evidence, and collecting nearly 1 billion pieces of information. Federal Judge Richard Paul Match ordered that the venue for the trial be moved from Oklahoma City to Denver, Colorado, ruling that the defendants would be unable to receive a fair trial in Oklahoma. The investigation led to the separate trials and convictions of McVeigh, Nichols, and Fortier.
This man is under arrest tonight, and the FBI suspects he's the notorious Unabomber.
Kaczynski, seen here in a 1962 Harvard University yearbook, is a native of Chicago. He graduated from Harvard with a degree in mathematics and later was an acting assistant professor of mathematics at the University of California in Berkeley.
Something you want to add to this briefing, Captain Hiller?
No, sir. I'm just a little anxious to get up there and whoop E.T.'s ass, that's all.
Pretty intense. Appropriately, Independence Day will explode onto movie screens around the country on the July 4th holiday weekend.
100% pure Florida orange juice. Pure energy. Are you drinking enough?
Opening statements in McVeigh's trial began on April 24th, 1997. The United States was represented by a team of prosecutors led by Joseph Hartzler. In his opening statement, Hartzler outlined McVeigh's motivations and the evidence against him. McVeigh, he said, had developed a hatred of the government during his time in the Army after reading the Turner Diaries. His beliefs were supported by what he saw as the militia's ideological opposition to increases in taxes and the passage of the Brady Bill, and were further reinforced by the Waco and Ruby Ridge incidents. The prosecution called 137 witnesses, including Michael Fortier and his wife, Lori, and McVeigh's sister, Jennifer McVeigh, all of whom tested to confirm McVeigh's hatred of the government and his desire to take militant action against it. Both Fortiers testified that McVeigh had told them of his plans to bomb the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. Michael Fortier revealed that McVeigh had chosen the date, and Lori Fortier testified that she had created the false identification card McVeigh used to rent the Ryder truck. McVeigh instructed his lawyers to use a necessity defense, but they ended up not doing so. They would have had to prove that McVeigh was in imminent danger from the government. McVeigh argued that imminent did not necessarily mean immediate. They would have argued that his bombing of the Murrah building was a justifiable response to what McVeigh believed were the crimes of the U.S. government at Waco, Texas, where the 51-day siege of the Branch Davidian complex resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians. As part of the defense, McVeigh's lawyers showed the jury the controversial video, Waco, the Big Lie.
Several of these agents are carrying fully automatic rifles. The agent at the top right side just managed to shoot himself in the leg. Did you see it? We'll watch that again. The 9mm pistols carried by the ATF have no safety protection on them. As the agent climbs the ladder, he reaches for his gun in the holster. It discharges, wounding him in the leg and causing him to slip. He is able to continue up the ladder, however. At approximately 6:10 a.m., smoke begins pouring from the underground bunker. None of the media mentions the fire in the underground bunker, yet this is when and where the first fire began and where many people lost their lives. The first tank that is sent in is a tank retriever. It has no apparatus to insert any kind of gas. It appears at precisely the time the smoke you saw earlier was seen coming from the underground bunker. It is not making so-called small holes to insert gas. It is destroying the end of the house over the trap door that leads from the bunker, making sure that no one inside the now burning bunker can escape. A second hole is made in the side of the building, and a third hole is made at the front door. What these tanks are doing in each picture is collapsing the inside stairwells. The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. Watch carefully as the tank backs out of the house. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible. It is difficult to see the details on a television because the quality is poor, but in the studio, he can be seen removing a fireproof type hood. Another man is seen on the roof. The FBI claims that this man is a Branch Davidian. However, watch as he jumps from the roof and walks away. The tape quality again is poor when it broadcasts on a television set, but in the studio, while he is on the roof, he appears to take off a jacket. He jumps and lands on his feet. He very calmly walks away. As he walks, he can be seen removing a hood.
On June 2nd, 1997, McVeigh was found guilty on all 11 counts of the federal indictment. Although 168 people, including 19 children, were killed in the April 19, 1995 bombing, murder charges were brought against McVeigh for only the 8 federal agents who were on duty when the bomb destroyed much of the Murrah building. Along with the 8 counts of murder, McVeigh was charged with conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction, destroying a federal building.
Count 5, guilty, death of Donald R. Leonard. Count 6, guilty, death of Alan Gerald Richard. Guilty. Count 7, guilty, Cynthia Lynn Campbell Brown, Secret Service agent.
Oklahoma City District Attorney Bob Macy said he would file state charges in the other 160 murders after McVeigh's co-defendant, Terry Nichols, was tried. After the verdict, McVeigh tried to calm his mother by saying, "Think of it this way, when I was in the Army, you didn't see me for years. Think of me that way now, like I'm away in the Army again, on an assignment for the military." On June 13th, the jury recommended McVeigh be sentenced to death. The U.S. Department of Justice brought federal charges against McVeigh for causing the deaths of 8 federal officers, leading to a possible death penalty for McVeigh. They could not bring charges against McVeigh for the remaining 160 deaths in federal court because those deaths fell under the jurisdiction of the state of Oklahoma. Because McVeigh was convicted and sentenced to death, the state of Oklahoma did not file murder charges against McVeigh for the other 160 deaths. Michael Fortier testified against his comrades. Fortier had entered into a federal plea agreement for reduced charges in return for his agreement to testify. He was charged with failing to notify authorities in advance of the crime and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Nichols' wife, Marie, testified as a defense witness, but her story may have helped the prosecution's case. She said her husband had been living a double life prior to the bombing, using aliases, renting storage lockers, and lying that he had broken off his relationship with McVeigh. She also testified that Nichols traveled to Oklahoma City 3 days before the bombing, supporting the prosecution's contention that Nichols helped McVeigh station a getaway car near the Murrah building. Marie also failed to give Nichols an alibi for April 18, 1995, the day the prosecution said Nichols helped McVeigh assemble the truck bomb. The jury deliberated for 41 hours over a period of 6 days, acquitting Nichols on December 24, 1997, of actually detonating the bomb, but convicted him of conspiring with McVeigh to use a weapon of mass destruction, a capital offense. They acquitted Nichols on the charges of first-degree premeditated murder, but convicted him on the lesser charge of involuntary unintentional manslaughter in the deaths of the federal law enforcement officers. After the penalty hearing concluded, the jury deliberated for 13 hours over 2 days on whether to give Nichols a death sentence, but deadlocked. Judge Match then had the option of giving Nichols a sentence of life imprisonment or a lesser term. On June 4, 1998, he sentenced Nichols to life in prison without parole on the conspiracy conviction, calling Nichols an enemy of the Constitution who had conspired to destroy everything the Constitution protects. Nichols also received a concurrent 48-year sentence for his 8 involuntary manslaughter convictions, 6 for each victim. Nichols showed no emotion. He was sent to the federal Supermax prison, Florence, Colorado.
Akira is yours for only $4.95 with subscription when you order the Best of Japanese Animation Collection Series. With these state-of-the-art sci-fi classics, you will enter a world beyond imagination, a future out of control, and an experience you will never forget. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Call 1-800-936-3311 now to order Akira for only $4.95 plus $3.79 shipping and handling. Future volumes are $19.95 plus shipping. Mature audiences only.
In a 1,200-word essay dated March 1998 from the federal maximum security prison at Florence, Colorado, McVeigh claimed that the terrorist bombing was morally equivalent to U.S. military action against Iraq and other foreign countries. The handwritten essay, submitted to and published by the alternative national news magazine Media Bypass, was distributed worldwide by the Associated Press on May 29, 1998. This was written in the midst of the 1998 Iraq disarmament crisis, and a few months before Operation Desert Fox.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
To go fast, an Intel Pentium 2.
Just be right there.
Getting a little quieter now.
There's a big orange glow in our background now. It could be the refinery. Can you see it on the camera?
I have to be careful how I describe my point about timing. Obviously, if we had left this thing to ride for 6 months, and we now get Saddam's latest challenge, I can't argue with the point that he needs to be responded to. My problem is, and I think we had to do it, but my problem is it is now taken in the face of the impeachment issue. To put it in the mildest possible terms I can, I think the whole process of getting here after wasting 6 months smells to high heaven. Having said that, I agree it had to be done. I cannot believe, however, that the president, when he was planning on doing this, wasn't thinking in the back of his mind that there is the impeachment issue as well. I don't blame Senator Lott for being angry. I think he gave the wrong answer. But it is the president, after all. You know, I have not commented on this whole mess with the president, but it is the president, after all, who put us where we now are, where people can challenge the wisdom of doing what we've done. I think we had to do it, but the mess is his in the making, and it's what's wrong with our foreign policy now. It's going to be wrong for a long time. I think we had to do what we did, but it smells.
Are you saying that the impeachment threat hanging over the president has had a determinative effect on this attack, that's the reason it is happening today?
It's not by any means the only reason it is happening today, but I cannot believe that when the president was sitting there thinking about how we're going to respond, that this was not an element in his thinking.
Should the United States have waited?
No, the president was right. We should have done it. What's wrong is that we got into the mess we're now in so that he is in the position where doing what is right can also be seen, and to some degree, I suspect, is a consequence of his concerns about impeachment.
And said Iraq would endure the U.S. strikes that hit military intelligence and special security police headquarters. Sites, he said, had been inspected by UNSCOM.
These are examples to show you how cheap liars are the officials, the leaders of the American regime and the British regime.
Timothy McVeigh, the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, and the World Trade Center bomber Ramzi Ahmed Youssef were residents of the Supermax's Unit D, known inside the prison's walls as Bombers Row. Through walls that muffled their voices, the men shouted to each other from their cells. 1-hour exercise sessions in enclosed wire cages outside the prison walls allowed for better discourse. McVeigh and Youssef engaged in intense political discussions. He admired the fact that Ramzi Youssef, when he had got up and was sentenced, made a long speech against the U.S. government, saying, "Yes, I am a terrorist, and I'm proud of it. And I support terrorism so long as it was against the United States government and against Israel, because you are more than terrorists. You are the ones who invented terrorism and using it every day. You are butchers, liars, and hypocrites." McVeigh was amazed that he would find such common ground with an Arab terrorist, because he's racist. But McVeigh was particularly fond of Kaczynski. Both men were survivalists who liked to be outdoors and live off the land, and they shunned contact with the government. Things got off to a rocky start, however. Michael Mello, a professor of law at Vermont Law School who wrote The United States of America versus Theodore John Kaczynski, said the Unabomber did not like McVeigh at first. That changed as they got to know each other. Initially, Kaczynski kind of looked his nose down at McVeigh. He saw McVeigh as a trashy kind of terrorist, and himself as the rich man's terrorist, Mello said. At first, it wasn't so much respect for McVeigh's political ideology. He always saw McVeigh's, as he tended to see everyone's, that was not his own, as being simplistic and simply wrong-headed. What he did come to respect somewhat was McVeigh's stoicism, the soldier in him, his willingness to accept his fate without whining, which are qualities that would tend to impress a lot of prisoners, but especially Kaczynski, because those were qualities that he saw, rightly or wrongly, in himself.
Tim McVeigh is a clever, manipulative, cunning person. I am not indignant, but by the same token, I'm not going to be silent if he lies, as he has. I do not want his version, false as it is, to be the last word on this great tragedy.
In McVeigh's biography, American Terrorist, released in 2002, he stated that he did not believe in a hell and that science is his religion. In June 2001, a day before the execution, McVeigh wrote a letter to the Buffalo News, identifying himself as agnostic. However, he took the last rites administered by a priest just before his execution. Father Charles Smith ministered to McVeigh in his last moments on death row. McVeigh was executed by lethal injection on June 11, 2001, at the Federal Correctional Complex in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Inside the death chamber at 7:06 a.m. local time, the warden announces, "We're ready." The curtains are pulled, revealing McVeigh strapped onto the gurney.
Absolutely no expression on his face, other than in his eyes, a sharpness, a real sense that he was looking through the window at you.
At 7:10, the first drug, sodium thiopental, is administered to heavily sedate McVeigh. He lies motionless, his eyes fixed on the ceiling.
His lips relaxed, his eyes relaxed. He looked toward the ceiling, where there happened to be a camera staring right at Oklahoma City.
7-11, pancuronium bromide is given to stop McVeigh's breathing. He takes 2 last deep breaths. 7-13, the final drug, potassium chloride, is injected to stop his heart. 1 minute later, it's over. McVeigh's lips turn light blue, his skin light yellow, as he dies, eyes wide open.
The court order to execute inmate Timothy James McVeigh has been fulfilled.
Now from News Channel 5.
It's the end of an emotionally draining day as Timothy McVeigh is put to death, and those who knew his victims try to get on with their lives. We'll have live team coverage coming up at 10 o'clock.
Also ahead, an important warning as the summer construction season means lots of danger zones on area highways.
And local rap star Nelly has a mid-air confrontation with a TWA flight crew.
This week, September 10th through the 16th at 7 p.m., an outdoor dance series, Evening Stars, on stage at the Twin Towers. Presented by Visa with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Featuring Trisha Brown. Dance Theater of Harlem. Paul Taylor Dance. And more. Free. Call 212-435-6600 or visit PANYNJ.gov.
The heck was that?
Was that the Encore?
Wow. It sounded like something crashed.
Good evening.
Before September 11th, there was the Oklahoma City bombing. April 19th, 1995, you may recall, a truck bomb ripped through this 9-story Oklahoma City federal building, which included a daycare center on the 2nd floor. 168 men, women, and children died. Hundreds more were wounded. At the time, it was the worst terrorist attack ever on U.S. soil. The bomber, Timothy McVeigh, was executed. His co-conspirator, Terry Nichols, is serving a life sentence. Janie Coverdale lost 2 grandsons, then 5-year-old Aaron and 2-year-old Elijah in that bombing, but she forgives Terry Nichols. She joins me now on the phone from Oklahoma City. Janie, you've been corresponding with Terry Nichols the last 7 years or so. I'm curious what made you want to reach out and write that first letter?
Well, after Terry Nichols' trial in the state of Oklahoma, and he didn't get the death penalty, I was very angry for a while. And then, I don't know, it was like a voice told me that there's been enough killings, you know, we needed to leave that alone. So I wanted to talk to Terry, and I have never believed that the government has told us the truth about what happened here that day. So I had a friend to get Terry's address. He was in McAlester, Oklahoma, in prison. And I wrote him a letter. And I said, now that God has seen fit to spare your life again, it's time for you to tell us what really happened. And I really didn't expect Terry to answer my letter, but he did.
You lost your 2 grandsons in that bombing. How long did it take you to forgive Terry Nichols?
It took me 9 years. I was angry for 9 whole years.
And what made you forgive him?
I beg your pardon?
What made you forgive him? Was it something that he said to you?
He asked me to forgive him. In one of his letters he wrote, he said, for all of the pain and heartache I've caused you and your family, please forgive me. And God said, in order for him to forgive me, I've got to forgive Terry, and that's what I started working on. It took a long time and a lot of praying, but I got rid of that anger. Really, I don't think Terry Nichols deserved any more time than Michael Fortier got. If the government could dress Michael Fortier up, shave him, put him on the witness stand, and let him lie, and he serve a minimum time, I think Terry Nichols should have too.
The penalty phase of Nichols' trial started on June 1st, 2004. The same jury that determined Nichols' guilt would also determine whether he would be put to death. During the 5-day hearing, 87 witnesses were called, including urged jurors not to be persuaded by the flood of tears of the victims who testified. The defense also said that Nichols had sincerely converted to Christianity. After 19 and a half hours of deliberation over 3 days, the jury could not reach a unanimous decision on the death penalty. With the death penalty no longer an option, Nichols spoke publicly for the first time in the proceedings, making a lengthy statement laced with religious references to Judge Stephen W. Taylor. Nichols also apologized for the murders and offered to write to survivors to assist in their healing process. Darlene Welch, whose niece was killed in the explosion, said she didn't appreciate being preached to by Nichols and that she regretted that he won't stand before God sooner. Judge Taylor called Nichols a terrorist and said no American citizen has ever brought this kind of devastation. You are in U.S. history the #1 mass murderer in all of U.S. history, and sentenced Nichols to 161 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Nichols was returned to ADX Florence in Colorado, where he remains to this day at 70 years old, alongside the 57-year-old Ramsey Youssef. The 81-year-old Ted Kaczynski hung himself with his shoelaces and died on June 10th, 2023.
Receive information regarding